You speak about spirituality. Doctor, were you always in the spiritual line, or did your practice get you more and more into spirituality? How do you integrate spirituality with your practice, with your patients? Love to hear from you on that.
So look, two great points. One is you have to practice what you preach. And I'm a firm believer in that. And when there is a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
So time management is a huge challenge. And if you saw me 30 years back, I was very irritable, short-tempered, always struggling for time, and was difficulty in managing time. As I evolved, I think I'm able to handle time better and prioritize things better. And I've realized that I can treat only a finite number of people. But if I educate a larger pool of medical doctors, healthcare professionals, including you, and then go to lay people, you are able to make a bigger change in people's lives. That's the first thing. Second is, I think my evolution in spirituality came from personal experiences and my encounters when I was at the JJ hospital building a medical intensive care unit, where I saw death. When you see death, and I talk to people who survived death. So these are called as near-death experiences. And when I interrogated them and interviewed them, and I asked them, what is it that you felt when you were nearing death? And everybody had a different story to tell. And that is the time I met, and I never knew about, so I went to St. Stanislaus, then I went to Ruparel, then I went to Grand Medical, I did my endocrinology at KEM Hospital, then I went to United States. I never got an idea of my own religion. You know, the parish I was St. Peter's, so I knew a little bit of Roman Catholics, I knew a little bit about Islam, I knew a little bit about Hinduism, and I believe that all religions have a common DNA, all religions have a common God, and all religions are ultimately looking at evolving the soul, you know. So I heard one of our surgeons, Dr. Nagargatti, talk on the chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, and that was inspirational to me. That was Karma Yoga, which means we are born in an era where we are supposed to do what we are supposed to be born for, and that was very inspirational. And I took a cork from there, and I actually started reading my own scripture, which was taught to me by my father. He was a Sanskrit scholar. But I never realized the meaning of it. See, reciting something without knowing it reflexly is very different. But understanding the meaning of it is very different. You know, chanting a Gayatri mantra has a lot of healing. Chanting Om has a lot of healing. It's done with a purpose. It has a lot of biological basis behind it. And as a researcher, I started investigating into it. When COVID hit us, again I saw death. And that rekindled me to do a docudrama, and I currently continue researching on near-death experiences. So as we evolve, we are all ultimately souls. Human body is only a construction of that. And therefore I got involved a little bit into the spirituality part of it. Secondly, you may be physically completely fit. You may have the best diet, nutrition, muscle. But if you are not happy, if you are not satisfied, if you are not grateful, if you don't write a gratitude diary, your purpose of life is lost. And through some personal upheavals, and by personal coaching, I understood the need for getting myself happy and trying to spread happiness around. So I think as much as we have to be health ambassadors of the world, I think we have to be happiness ambassadors of the world.
True.
And I think a happy India, you will be a happy world, you know. And I think one of the reasons, Luke, I love your philosophy is because in success of health, happiness has to be one of the most important targets. Health parameters are all biological, but happiness is beyond biology. Happiness is emotive. Happiness has to be beyond cognition. And I think, cognition is important because, our biggest problem is impulse control. But I think if we don't keep people happy, and happiness is our connective to, whether you call it moksha, whether you call it nirvana, whether you call it solace, whether you call it, gratitude, there are different constructs to it. And philosophers are all over the world, whether it is the Greek philosophy or the Roman philosophy, or whether it is the Hindu philosophy, or whether it is the Islamic philosophy. All philosophers have a common pathway. And I am a firm believer that I am understanding my religion better now. So I think it's a path of evolution. When you see death closely, and when you talk to people who have seen death closely and who have missed death and have survived, they get a survival instinct. See, human beings are all survivors.
Correct,
They are all
yeah.
survivors, In India, there's a new word called jugad. And India, the best jugad is on planet Earth. That's why we are successful. I strongly believe in India. India is going to be the superpower of the world.
Me too, I believe.
Europe was a power probably in the 18th century. 19th century was all of the Americas and the Russias. And it's Asia and India which is arriving in the 20th century. So we really are going to be a superpower. So it's important that if we don't meet our happiness index correctly and are evolved and evolved souls, it's very important. See, there are two types of people, and I'll use a little lingo here. There are trupta atmas and atrupta atmas. Trupta means satisfied souls and atrupta means unsatisfied souls. So at the end of the day, I am grateful to Almighty that I can speak with Luke and talk to you all. So I am grateful and I am happy. I don't have any ulterior motive in talking to him because he's trying to reach all of you out, whoever is listening to us, to make you all healthy and happier. So I am a happy soul. So is he. But if you are all the time grumpy and negative and despondent, that's not on. That you need to break that.
Absolutely.
And I think you need a chain breaker. And Luke is one of those chain breakers. He if you can break that cycle of your life and try to evolve as a better human being and a happier human being. And for that, you have to break some vices. So I think spirituality tells you how to beat jealousy, how to, you have to become a giver.
Yeah.
We are misers, we store everything. You store fat, okay, we don't spend it. So, that's why we become obese and get diseases. And similarly, we store money and we don't relish it. Okay, we need to spend. I'm not telling you to go and spend out. But at the end of the day, if you spend energy or spend for yourself and love your own self, it's important to do that. We love everybody around us, but don't love our own self. So I think spirituality taught me all this. And it's evolution. It's a phase over the last couple of decades. I learned it and I learned from everybody. Like for example, from you, I learn, I want to put on some more muscle like you are. I'm a real thin guy. So, I was ostracized. So don't ever get destigmatized. Don't feel negative. If I'm thin, I'm proud to what I am. I used to have image issues in the past. And I must honestly confess in front of all of you all that when I went to school, I was a very lean and a skinny child. So, you do get stigmatized sometimes. So break that stigma. So, we need to recognize that when we look at death very closely, don't look at the negative side of death and fear of death. We need to switch gears from a negative environment to a positive environment. Because if you are cheerful and positive, and you are a trupta atma or a satisfied soul, and you are grateful that we are happy that we are talking to each other, helping each other out, it's a one world, one family. And we all live on one planet. We are the G20 leaders now. And I think our mission should be Vasudevam Kutumbam, which is one world and one family. And therefore, it's important to spread the message of positivity, the lotus of positivity. And it's important to recognize that when we are spreading the lotus of positivity, every human being will have good things and bad things.
Yeah.
Look at the good things and cultivate them. But if there are bad things and bad habits, and habits die hard, they say. And the reason, Luke, you are a bigger transformational agent than a medical doctor who's practicing medicine is because you can change a habit. Because that's a tough one to crack. And I think that is where the construct comes, the motivation comes, the positive energy and the flow comes. And that's very important and crucial, that in life, if you want to make a change, you need to break a habit.
True.
And breaking habits are difficult. So keeping the good habits is tough. So don't get into the temptation modes of breaking your good habits. And breaking the bad habits are tough. So look at people like Luke and try to look at some of us to empower you to handle those bad habits better and then manage diseases better. So that's our goal. Our goal is to live long, live happy, live healthy, live pain-free.
Doctor, beyond just being a fabulous doctor, I think you're an amazing person. I mean, it's not easy for someone to come on camera and talk about, I used to be an irritable person, an angry person, but what you've just given us again is hope of evolution. There are too many people out there trying to be perfect all the time and trying to be good. but you've evolved from what you honestly admitted. And, we all have that. I have anger issues. I get irritated with small conversations that don't make sense. But over the years, we evolve. And like you, I learn from my dying patients, because we have terminally ill patients. And the best lessons in life, you say I'm positive, it's only because of the lessons I learned from my patients, because you realize what's there to be negative about. When we know death is real, when we know that there are people dying with regret, those are the most powerful lessons for us to, while we all have some amount of unhappiness or negativity in our lives, we get to choose. And that's why I always say happiness is a choice. We can choose to focus on the negatives and make that our story every day, or we can choose to be satisfied or focus on the little things that are going well for us. And honestly, it's a choice and where we choose. But thank you for being so generous with that information.